Very much. So how are y'all tonight? All good? Before we go, I have to take one of the big threes. Y'all know what the big threes are? It's the rule of three. No one? Sound familiar? He's kind of, yeah, it's kind of familiar. The rule of threes. What are the three most important things to human beings? First, the rule of three. Air, because you can last 3 minutes without it. What's next? Water, because you can last 3 days without it. What's next? Food, because you can last 3 weeks without it, and then you're dead. And so when I look at the life support system of planet Earth, that's what goes through my mind. What are the three most important things for human beings? Clean air, clean water, and clean food. Would you agree with that? Of course you did, because she had a drink earlier, ate a cheeseburger at lunch, and breathed every 5 seconds all day long. So we need to really consider about how we interact with Earth's biosphere. We're not doing that as a people, are we? Is that number one on your mind? It should be. It really should be. Now, I'm not talking at you to tell you that's what you must do. I'm reminding you what you already know. So one of the things we do as biologists, and especially as ecologists, is study how Earth's biosphere functions. That's so important because we are blind people wandering around the dark with sharp knives when we try to understand how nature works. Even though it is an almost insurmountable task, it's something we must do, especially for the most important resource on planet Earth, for human beings. It's right here, and right here, and right there, and right there, and right there, and right there. And you guys too, but these are my former students right here. They're going to inherit what we leave them. A society is judged by that, how they treat their youngest. Okay, so I have to take care of number 2. It's so good and we take it for granted, don't we? We certainly do. Okay, so that's my pitch for being environmentally aware and prioritizing. You know, if you're in a desert dying of thirst and you've got 10 pounds of water and 10 pounds of gold, which one are you going to take? Of course. The gold, of course. No way. You're going to say, give me that water. Ammo, back there, another former student. What was the thing we missed the most in the tropical forest and before we had refrigeration? Ice. Yeah, not even ice, just cold water. You know, you'd be amazed what you say, I can't do without my Facebook or my smartphone. You get down in the rainforest and you start missing cold water. The important stuff, right? That bottle of Aquafina sweating into the hot steam. It's very important. Okay, so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the wonders of nature. I've been lucky enough because of my job, which I didn't consider it a job, it was an adventure, but I've been lucky enough to be able to travel to some of the most remote parts of the world. Now, I'm no expert photographer. I'll leave that up to my iPhone. That's supposed to be funny. Okay, I'll leave that up to a phone to do it for me or a digital camera. But I'm not an expert photographer. But even though the picture may be a little fuzzy, it's from a place that took you 4 days to get there. Those remote places where the last intact vestiges of nature still exist. So I've tried to learn Spanish. I'm not very fluent in it, but I can certainly get by. I know how to ask where the bathroom is, that kind of thing. But my father taught me phrases in Spanish, especially polite things, like, ojalá que tú sueñes con los angelitos. I hope you dream with little angels. Or, como las olas del mar, arriba y abajo, pero siempre adelante. like the waves of the sea, up and down, but always forward. So I'm not an expert in Spanish. That shouldn't stop you from traveling to see some of these places. So this is one of my favorite. Siempre adelante, always forward. One of my heroes, and I don't really even consider myself an ecologist. I'm more of a naturoecologist. Half science, half art, half nature. Love poetry. I'm a musician. You shouldn't be locked into one narrow path. Enjoy the great variety that life has to offer. Think of it. I'm just a big collection of atoms that's lucky enough to be conscious of my position in the universe. That right there ought to scare the pants off of you. Make you go, oh my gosh, how lucky am I to even exist, right? Have you ever felt that? Of course you have. Makes your heart go pitter-patter. So, a naturalist Odyssey. I was a professor here at the college for 22 years, but I was in science for 10 years before that. I did geographic information systems work in precision agriculture before. That's number 3 on the rule of threes, clean food. And I found myself in the Appalachians working with Professor Dodge over there, and it was, and still continues to be, the greatest adventure of my life. Okay, so why travel to the far corners of the earth? My mother was a school teacher after she was a registered nurse. My father was a school teacher, taught English literature as a second language. He was born in Norway, fought the Nazis in World War II, and said, I've always wanted to live where the cowboys live, in West Texas. By the way, can you see it? Present for my students. Okay. So my mother, back in the 60s, did something called decoupage. I reckon this side of the class knows what that is. And she put these old maps on coffee tables. And I used to sit there as a kid, go, beyond here be dragons, I want to go there. And literally, Ammo, have we gone to see dragons? Have we captured dragons? Yes. I put this all on my mother. By the way, she's 90 years old today and still kicking, still going strong. Yes, if we could all be so lucky. So, these are the kinds of things she had on the coffee table. You couldn't help but be interested in that when you were a kid. And so I picked a career path where I could actually do what I did when I was a kid. Chase reptiles and amphibians and go to far places in mysterious parts of the world. You've been there. So human knowledge is a generational relay race. So this fellow is one of my heroes, Alexander von Humboldt. He was recognized and welcomed by Thomas Jefferson as a full-fledged, bona fide explorer hero. He spent 5 years in the tropics, near where you were just a month ago, and mapped it for the first time, studied it for the first time as a scientist. He's kind of the father of, one of the many fathers of modern ecology. That's the best word I can use for it. And of course there's Darwin, radically changed the human condition. And by the way, he passed away last month. I got to sit down when he gave a talk at Texas Tech. I got to sit down with my hero. Here's what I said. It's like a kid standing in front of a real Superman. Island biogeography was one of the central themes of my focus in life, in the scientific discipline, and he basically invented it, at least modern island biogeography. Very influential, father of conservation biology, professor emeritus at Harvard. I was lucky enough to meet him. So I stand on the shoulders of giants, as do all students. There are no doctors or lawyers or politicians without teachers. We have the second most important job in the world. Being a good parent is number one. Why travel to the far corners of the world? This is where you can see an incredible diversity of life on planet Earth. Multitude of habitat types from montane cloud forest to lowland tropical forest. Friendly people. You can't be an ecologist and naturalist without also knowing the human part of the biosphere. So explore our planet and develop and nurture that innate explorer that resides in all of us, but especially in the young of our species. See and experience and learn. It's the most important way to learn. This is the real reason I do it. He is sitting right back there. He now has my job. Kevin, takes you back a little ways, doesn't it? Our most valuable resource. You must inspire them if you sit behind or stand behind a podium or teach a noble profession. You know that this is our most valuable resource. What we've done over the last 20 years or so reached a lot of people, changed a lot of lives, influenced the direction this planet will take in the 21st century. Where did we go? Nicaragua, one of the more undeveloped and still intact countries in Central America. Costa Rica, one of the most forward-thinking in environmental terms countries in Central America. I visited China and Peru. If I had 3 more hours, we could really do justice to these trips. But I'm going to start moving pretty quickly, and if you have any questions or say, hold that picture, just speak up. Okay, so Nicaragua and Costa Rica. Went to 2 different field stations, biological field stations. The family that owns them today, back in the 1980s, escaped from Nicaragua 5 minutes ahead of a death squad during La Guerra Sucia, the Dirty War. Came back 20 years later, got some of their land back. They could have sold it for millions of dollars. Instead, they turned them into biological research stations. They're not making a whole lot of money, but they are certainly making an impact. I love doing geographic information systems work, mapping stuff. I've told all my students, GIS, that's the way to go. They know that because now they know how to use the software, how to apply this to solve some of the problems we find in the world today that were previously unsolvable. So our first trip to the island of Ometepe in the middle of Lake Nicaragua, the largest freshwater lake in the world. Largest island in a freshwater lake. The day we arrived, there were 10-foot waves on the lake. We couldn't get across to the island. So we had to find a hotel. Man, we said, we're in the middle of nowhere. How are we going to find a hotel? Right down the street was the Hotel California. Remember what they say about the Hotel California. You can check out, but you can never leave. It was owned by an American expatriate, retired from the Navy. He loved my students so much he invited us up for breakfast at his big house. Remember that Ammo? Ammo left his hiking boots, his new hiking boots, in the van that delivered us to the shore of Lake Nicaragua. And about 15 minutes after the van left, Ammo realized he left his hiking boots in the van. The next 2.5 weeks he spent in my flip-flops. Tough man right there. So finally the wind settled down. We could head across to Ometepe. Bananas and plantains. Oops. We were headed into the unknown. You know, this was an adventure for these kids. Look how small that horse is. You guys remember the horse latitudes? Why they're called the horse latitudes, the ship would become becalmed in that high pressure region, and the first thing to go when the water started running short were the horses. Imagine being, are you Ryan? Yeah. Pleasure to see you, Ryan. I had to make that leap of faith there.
Good job.
All right. So can you imagine anthropologists and paleontologists studying ancient marine sediments, and they're going down through these layers, and all of a sudden they get this thin layer where there are tens of thousands of horse carcasses in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. Imagine the puzzle they will have there. Dirt road, love it when the pavement runs out. Notice, all by hand. What's the cheapest thing in the tropics? Human labor. Love it. We were headed to here. I'm getting excited right now reliving that moment. Oh yeah. Middle of nowhere. By the way, Darwin said the island, not Darwin, Mark Twain said the island of Ometepe was the closest to heaven on earth a person can be. Volcano, cloud forest, elfin forest is sometimes called. We travel all this way. Ammo gets out his high-powered telescopic camera. And what do you think the first bird we saw was? We're 2,000 miles from Maryland. First bird we see, Baltimore Oriole. This was a class. They got 3 credits, 3 college credits for it. So we're going to work 16 hours a day. We're going to make the most we can of it. So they're doing GPS and GIS mapping work. That's Ammo back over there. Justin's now herpetologist for All-Star Ecology, has been for years. I'd put him up against anybody in the world as far as reptiles and amphibians go. I've watched him develop and become a literal expert. That's my classroom. Love it. Beautiful sky over Lake Ometepe. Oops, Neftali. He fought in the Dirty War, and now instead of killing people, he was guiding American science students through the wilderness. Great guy. We're in the middle of nowhere on an island. You can tell it's volcanic. Believe it or not, it gets cold in the tropics sometimes. Red beans in Nicaragua, black beans in Costa Rica, they fought 7 wars over that. I'm just kidding you, of course. Call them the Frijoles Wars. La Guerra Frijoles. Fried plantains are delicious, and they're actually good for you. It's only fried food that's good for you, by the way. More than 100 species of cichlids alone in Lake Nicaragua. Whoops. Dodie! Look at Kevin shaking his head. By the way, if you know who Jared Diamond is, I had a nice conversation with one of his grad students on this island. That night, actually. We had an infrared pair of binoculars. We were watching fishing bats, wingspans about like this. But this is what we really came to see, the iguanids. We visited this orchard. The farmer was so proud of his fruit, and he gave us these oranges, and he opened them up, and I bit into one, and my whole face sucked in like that. It was much, much more sour than a lemon. And so while he wasn't looking, I had to chuck it behind me like that. You didn't want to offend them. You know, you're a visitor in their country. It's kind of funny. And of course, one of the things that you can do if you want to truly save the environment in the tropical world is get the people that live there involved in managing their own resources in an environmentally sustainable way. That's the owner. That's how he spent his days. Are you jealous yet? White-faced capuchins, probably the smartest monkeys in the Americas. I won't worry about the videos for these. I want to get to the good stuff. Oops. Almost perpetually in cloud. That is an active volcano. Ammo, do you remember when we had the big earthquake and the volcano erupted and our water, our bathing water, drinking water, everything turned bright orange? Cormorants, spider monkeys, whoops. Anybody know Spanish? Say it. My Uncle Julio. I read Darwin. He's on my family tree. My Aunt Maria. She's very good. Started blowing wind that day. Almost got blown out a few weeks before. A bunch of American students had to be rescued because they blew so far off land and it got dark. This is looking from up above the inactive volcano. Also, ex-soldiers now making their living saving the environment. I can't think of a more powerful thing than turning a war into something like this. Do they look happy? They have nothing, and they're happy. What's the most unhappy country in the world? Right here, and we have everything. What a paradox. Reptiles is what, and amphibians is what we really went there for because they're easy to catch and find. It's much harder to find a jaguar. That was a hellacious climb up that mountainside. There's Jody in what we would call either a montane cloud forest or an elfin forest, which is the one I like. That was the size of my hand, a big jumping spider. There's Ammo, Annika, Jody. Got his mouth open. Latest hairstyle, it's a lichen. Bullet ant, Jody was bitten by one on his shoulder and he is a tough guy. And I saw tears coming out of his eye in that last couple of days. It's one of the most painful bites. It's like being shot. That's why it's called a bullet ant. Solitary predatory hunter. I have more than 10,000 photographs. Sorting through that is a nightmare to find the best one. Little dewlap down there. There it is. This is what the male uses to attract the female. Check me out. That's what they say. They stand up and bounce kind of on their front legs. Check out my dewlap. Which one gets the ladies? Well, it depends on what the ladies want. This is all driven by sexual selection. The ladies determine how big the peacock's tail feather is. So who runs the world? Ladies? The girls. We guys just think we do because they let us think we do. They had some Asian geckos or backpacker geckos in our rooms at Ometepe. And at night, my first night there, I had no idea what it was. I'm laying in bed and I hear this. All night long. And finally I got up and I discovered it was a gecko. Remember the family Iguanidae? Oops. We took a 15-mile bike ride from hell. That's what we'll call it. It was tough, so we had to cool off a little bit. But it took a lot out of me. This is what I looked like after that ride. Oh man, it was tough. No, I'm just kidding you. This guy's a botanist. He was collecting plants that have purported medicinal properties. He was drying them here. His wife was native. On the island of Ometepe, only about 10% of the population is derived from the Hispanic line. The rest are natives. We worked with an orphanage, educate them about the environment, but also let them educate us about what life is like for a child in a major city like Managua, where some children can't be fed by their parents, so they basically have to turn them out on the streets. And they live out of garbage dumps. And so this guy that ran this orphanage on the island of Ometepe would sneak into Managua with a van about twice a year and cruise the streets. And he would find kids that were addicted to sniffing glue, and he would rescue them and haul them away to the island of Ometepe, where they got good food and education and learned how to do something, a trade of some kind. It made tears come to my eyes, the passion and compassion that these people have. They made little bracelets. When you see their hands, they're going like this. And out the other end, like a machine, comes this bracelet. It's amazing. Remember ammo? That's after that 15-kilometer bike ride. If you ever had a Coca-Cola that's ice cold when it's 100 degrees and 100% humidity, that's made with cane sugar, that is the most delightful drink you will ever drink. It's different than the Coca-Cola we get here. Beautiful country. Planet Earth takes my breath away every time I think about it. You know your life is not measured by the number of breaths you take. It's measured by the number of moments that take your breath away. Let's go to Costa Rica. This is Braulio Carrillo National Park, 35,000 hectares of completely primeval forest. What an adventure if you're a student from northern West Virginia, never been out of your hometown. There's the crew. He has real long hair, so they decided they might be smuggling drugs. So they searched him, and I was making fun of them, and the border guards didn't like that, so they searched me. There's a big volcano in the background called Arenal, famous in Costa Rica. Now we're getting to our first field station. 3 days of hard traveling. Always check your boots. You never know what's taking up residence inside. Oh, by the way, she's the owner. Remember the guy that was laying in the hammock? This is his sister. Remember, they escaped a death squad. 5 minutes. Had to spend the next 20 years in Miami. I told him to look mean, and the only one that did it was him. He looks like that all the time. Got to stock up. This was one of the rare mornings we had pancakes and syrup. It's amazing what little things you miss in a field station. You're in Costa Rica, black beans. That's typical student accommodations. It's all in French. I've heard at least 6 different languages spoken there, from Chinese to Italian. So what else do students get? Interaction with other cultures. It's so important. More GIS work. My classroom at La Suerte in Costa Rica. One day I was teaching, giving a lecture. I thought I was really smoking hot. And everybody's looking out the damn window. And I said, what are y'all doing? He said, look at all the baby howler monkeys on the telephone line. Or no, it was electric line. And so right outside this window here, there was a line about this high off the ground. And there was a whole troop of just females with their young. And the little howler monkeys were only about this big. And I would gladly stop a lecture for something like that, because that's a lecture that replaces 10 hours of classroom work. You can guess what he's thinking. If he'd just leave me alone, I could get this job done. So off the edge there, about 100 feet down to the river. It bounces. At night, students were sometimes afraid to go over it. I should tell you the story about the guitar. Let's see, which we're doing pretty good. I'm a musician also. So scientist, musician. I can't go more than 48 hours without a guitar. I just can't do it. I start dreaming about playing the guitar. And so I told him when we were in Ometepe, is there any place I can buy a guitar? I brought $200 extra just to get a guitar. It's kind of like being addicted to heroin. I'll give you all my money for a guitar. So he took me to a place and bought the guitar. But he made a deal with me. He said, I'll pay for half of it. This is the owner of the fuel station. He said, I'll pay for half the guitar if you'll leave it here. And I promise you, every time you come back, I'll make sure the guitar is where you're going to be. And he never failed that agreement. So that's that guitar. Beautiful guitar. The students that year had wanted to ride some horses. And there was a ranch next door, so I got them to go over on a Sunday and get 2 horses for us. And our guide from Nicaragua, Yuri, went to get the horses. And when he came back, he was riding one of them, and as he rode up onto the lawn, the horse bucked him off. He did like 3 back flips and landed flat on his back and knocked the wind out of him. And I ran over there and said, Yuri, are you okay? He said, oh, I'm okay. I said, okay, which horse is mine? He said, that one. But I'm from Texas. I wear cowboy belt buckles. That horse knew it. He was just fine. Now you notice the name of the horse. In Spanish, that means twister. So I really enjoyed getting up on Twister. Never thought you'd see Jody on a horse, did you, Kevin? That's one of those big buttress trees you were talking about, Colt. We also, part of this trip, would go study nature in a place called Tortuguero. It's really the Amazon of Central America. There's only 2 ways in. One is by little long, narrow river boats, 3-hour ride, and the other is by bush plane. So you know you're getting into the backcountry, where you're likely to find untrammeled, or at least only minimally trammeled nature. It's on the coast, beautiful. This is what I saw when I walked out on the beach. I looked left, I looked right. No people! Can you believe it? We had just climbed this mountain in the back in a horrendous downpour, and it was straight up. You're using roots of trees to pull up there. That's why we're cheering, because we got out alive. Both former students. All students. Look at Bruce. Can you believe that? They all know Bruce. What a good guy. Okay, let's look at some animal pictures. Los animales de Costa Rica. Oh, you knew that was coming, didn't you? The most photographed tropical frog in the world. And you can see why. It's striking. You can hold that and wonder about your place in the universe, where this kind of thing exists. It's incredible. And it's all on this little spinning ball with a thin haze of gas around it. And we're all scurrying around down on the surface of planet Earth. And you see something like that. Look at the nictitating membrane. Those toe pads. Incredible. Boy, she's very well manicured. My wife says this is her favorite picture. That year I went native, I mean completely. Sound familiar? Mm-hmm. All day long. And it's the size of my thumbnail. It's unbelievably loud for such a small animal. Oh, what a picture. Look at the membranes between the toe pads. The glass frogs have a almost transparent belly. The ventral side, you flip them over, you can see food passing through the digestive tract. You can see a little heart pitter-pattering. Of course, the infamous or famous poison dart frogs, one of my favorites. These are the infamous marine toads, wreaking havoc in many ecosystems, an invasive species, exotic. Smoky Jay, as my students would call them. Another smoky jungle frog.
Can you make him do
So this is the same family as the tink frog. But these guys don't have direct development. They lay eggs in foam nests.
Oh, I saw the foam nest.
That's one of my colleagues from Hood College. I had a bunch of students attend 1 year from Hood College. Now, my wife and I watched a documentary on nature of Colombia last night, and they showed a vine snake consuming a frog. My pictures were better. You're going to love this next series. Took 45 minutes. It was the last night we were in camp, and we always have a little party on the last night in camp. But Justin, like Justin is, he's got to get out in the rainforest, so we went for a little walk in the primary forest. And we hadn't walked in 100 meters, and we turned the corner, and that's hanging down. It just started. It's all over but the crying. That snake's no bigger around than my little finger, but 6 feet long. Now, every field station we're in, no one, very few, go out at night. This is the only crew that was responsible enough and knowledgeable enough to keep from getting bitten by a snake, of which there are several that are horrible for humans if you're bit by them. That's the only reason they're horrible. Otherwise, they're fantastic. The fer-de-lance being one of the worst. That was about the size of a quarter. It was a baby. Here's mama. Whoops. There's mama. As big around as my arm. There's the fer de lance I just mentioned. Just want you to get an idea of what it looks like. You can't see it. Look. Get it? Oh, it's not going to play it. Ah. Okay, I know a way to do it, so hang on just a second. You got to have an extension. It's an old MPEG. All right, so let's see here. I think I can do it this way. I don't really want to do it this way because it's time consuming. Let's see if it'll play this way. No, okay, not now. Stop. All right, there's one other option. Come on, Speedy. Kevin, how long's been since you heard that? Only when you say it. It'll play with Windows Media Player. Can't see it. Can't see it. Wait, there it is. Notice how well camouflaged it was. That snake was at least 7 feet long. Okay. Sorry for that little technical glitch. I'd forgotten about those MP2s, those older ones. There you go. You do not want to get bitten by the snake. If you like to throw up when you look at pictures, Google fer de lance bite. It's not pleasant. Beautiful snake, ugly name. There's one of those vine snakes I was talking about. Hognose pit viper. Got a kind of a turned up nose, snout at the end. I walked by the snake at least 4 times at night with a cut off t-shirt. Didn't realize it was there. It hunts bats at night along little open areas in the forest. There's another morph of the palm eyelash pit viper. And then for 10 years or more, we looked for the magic golden morph of the palm eyelash pit viper. And we finally found one. There it is. I get chills when I look at that picture. They're incredible. Isn't nature grand? El cazador de serpientes, the hunter of snakes. It's a snake that hunts other snakes. It was about 7 feet long, the fastest snake I've ever seen. Gone. Like coach whips. And this was a class. Those are books. They're all taking a test. There's the basilisk, sometimes called the Jesus Christ lizard because the young can skitter across the water. It took me 30 minutes to sneak up on that lizard. Finally got my camera about 6 inches. That cavity is in a tree. It was about this big. So that tells you something about how big this animal is. The year I was at Palo Verde Biological Field Station, they always tell the students, don't mess with the iguanas. Don't mess with any of the big lizards. They're all over the roofs of the bunkhouses. And the year I was there, I heard bloody screaming, and one of the students messed with one of the lizards and bit off the end of his finger. And I hate to say it, but it was hilarious watching him chase that lizard yelling, "He's got my finger." The year before that, someone was killed at the same station by killer bees. That's about 120 feet above the forest floor. That lizard's at least 4 feet long. Tail up to here. There's a great blue heron. Stands about 4 feet tall. So that tells you something about these crocodiles. Cattle, crocodiles. Cattle, crocodiles. And just down the river, there were kids swimming in the river, jumping off of rocks into the river. I guess the crocodiles are so well fed that they don't really pose a threat. You can tell what they're getting ready to go do. For learning purposes, no animals were harmed during the filming of this movie. Maybe this one will play, let's see.
Excellent.
Ammo and Justin, 10 times better than me. Cayman Star. Babies. Didn't know mother scorpions were so loving, did you? My mother's just like a scorpion. She loves us to death. You don't see that very often. Mop, 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 mop. That's what you hear all day long from the rufous mop mop. Spatulate tail. Evening torpor. About 10 of them went inside this hollow tree trunk. The big question, good for a PhD dissertation, would be, how is the pecking order established? What's the best position? Lowest, top, or middle? And who decides who gets what? That's an interesting question. Oops, Wimbrels, roseate spoonbills, wood storks. Of course, the most important resource for wood storks, the next generation. Oops, there's an ibis. Anhinga, I've seen those both in the Amazon and in Costa Rica. Or cormorants, glossy ibis, they'd wake you up every morning. Took me 30 minutes to sneak up on this bird. It stands about 4 feet tall. How do you sneak up on a bird like that? Slowly. Three-toed sloth. It's really hard to shoot up through the canopy. The backlighting is awful for good photographs. But like I said, I never claimed to be an expert. Kinkajou. I bet it won't play this one. Let's see. Ah, good. Ammo, you shot this. Remember you brought that big camera and that big spotlight? It's eating breadfruit. If any of you studied the history of the Caribbean and the history of slavery, breadfruit played a big role in that. Related to the raccoon.
That thing's...
One trip, I had a student come running down to where I was sleeping. Said, Peter, there's something off in the woods somewhere that's just horrible. Something bad is happening. Sounds like a woman's being murdered or something. I said, don't worry about it, it's just a kinkajou. You hear these screams in the night in the middle of the jungle, and you'll wonder, what the heck is that? Okay, the iconic Mantle Howler monkey lets you at least listen to it. Every morning, sunrise, every evening, sunset, that's what you hear. And when it rains occasionally. Okay. You know that sound anywhere, wouldn't you? Eating Cecropia. Just chilling, just chilling. I didn't know there were squirrels in the tropics. I didn't pay much attention to the mammals except the charismatic megafauna. But there are squirrels in the tropics. Bats, chiropterans, the hand wings. My students got to work with Francois. He's probably in the top 3 world experts on neotropical bats. Got to misnet and measure, weigh, look for any ectoparasites or signs of disease. Are they having fun? They certainly are. They're a tough bunch. It's not pleasant living in the rainforest unless you're a billionaire and you air condition your house and have cold water. See pollen all over the anterior end. Oops. Weighing. Measuring. They get a little stressed, and the accepted methodology for releasing them back in the wild is to set them on your shoulder and let them chill for about 30 seconds, and they'll just flutter away. Northern Tamandua, an anteater. Oh, this is the big one. There are only about 3,000 left in the world, most of them in South America. They're in trouble in Central America. And we had seen signs for several years that they might be there. They're part of the odd-toed ungulates, the perissodactyls, the split-hoofed animals. And so a big 3 toes like this. What? A tapir? No way in this little island of tropical rainforest in a sea of pineapple and banana plantations. How's that possible? Heck, we now have evidence they're reproducing, correct, Ammo? Okay, so we just freaked out when we got it on our trail cameras. We bought a bunch of trail cameras and put them up everywhere. And we got this. It's so cool. Horses and rhinos are their closest relatives. You want one more? I do. That's another trail camera, got an ocelot. I shot this in the Talamancas in 2003. Less than 100 left in Costa Rica. Crawled on my belly for about 50 meters. And it didn't see me. And then I noticed it did see me. And so I backed out gently and quietly, but I did get those shots. Okay, I'm going to go pretty quickly through this. Ni hueso ingwen ma. Do you speak English? That's what that means. I wanted to go to the Yangtze River to see the Three Gorges Dam project, the largest earthen dam in the world. Displaced 10 million people from their ancestral homelands. They're now having earthquakes from all the added water, compressing the earth underneath it, and silt building up behind each of the dams, not fertilizing the Yangtze Delta anymore, the 3rd longest river in the world, by the way. where people have lived for 5,000 years or more and farmed that land. Yangtze alligator, the Baji, the Zhangtun. You'll look at those in just a second. Wanted to see the rare mountain macaques in the Yellow Mountains. I especially wanted to see tower karst and fishing cormorants in southern China and Guangxi province. And the dragon's backbones rice terraces. So all through this region, and then I spent most of my time down here pretty close to the Vietnamese border. So this is what the country looks like. It is an amazing country. I'm also an earth scientist. I have a degree in physical geography, so this is also one of my passions. Landscapes like this have always been attractive to me. Whoops. I know all my students have seen these. That is an amazing landscape. And for most of my trip, I did not see a Westerner anywhere. I don't speak Chinese, but it's amazing what a face can do, what hands and arms can do. This has been farmed for more than 5,000 years continuously. Western agriculture, industrial agriculture, can learn some lessons from these ancient people. This is the mirror season. I was especially interested in this one. The only other alligator is the American alligator. They're basically gone in the wild. This was a reserve I got to visit. They rear them, protect them. Their biggest threat, of course, are poachers. This is the river dolphin, akin to the dolphin that you find in the Amazon. They only exist in captivity now. This is the finless river porpoise, the Zhangtun. I got to work with a government agency, at least to observe some of their efforts to preserve this animal. This is actually where they filmed a lot of Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. You can see it is an amazing landscape. You can't tell, but right there is a big rope, a chain with a bunch of padlocks on it. And there's a guy sitting there that will engrave something on it for you, and you lock it on there. And there's, 70 years worth of padlocks there. These are the macaques, the mountain macaques. Autonomous province means it's not ethnic Chinese. It's an ethnic minority of people who are not part of kind of the general Chinese hegemony. This is the village where I stayed. These birds are trained to fish thousands of years. These fishermen have made their living fishing with these birds. I got to see that in action. So another nexus between the human being and nature. His eyes were completely milked over with cataracts. I call this Chinese Social Security. For 50 cents, you can have your picture taken with him and his birds. They treat their birds like they treat their children because they're that valuable. I also went to see this, though I didn't want to. Tiger farm. Not treated well at all. I had to sneak my camera in this tiger park. They didn't want Westerners having cameras in there. This was in a reserve. There are none left in the wild. You can notice the small, stocky body separates it from the Bengal and the Siberian tigers. This was also in a park, but an ecology park. It's a clouded leopard, This is an ancient lineage of cats that come directly from the saber-toothed cat group. When they split, modern cats, all cats went this way. The clouded leopard went this way. So they are an amazing animal. Goes about 40 pounds, so they're not very large. Also, white-headed langurs, about 700 left in the world in the same ecology park. I also went to see cobras. I didn't take that picture, but I did take this one. Those are the two species that I was likely to see. There's their range. So I did manage to find someone who could take me out to find a couple of cobras. "600 square miles of terraces, by the way, at least continuously farmed for 5,000 years. How to get to the top, 7,000 steps. Chinese Social Security. There's a village below. There's the red Yao People. We're probably going to run about 8 more minutes. Their hair is very long, 6 feet long. They have special wedding ceremonies where they have group marriages, not multiple people marrying multiple people. Individual marriages all happening at the same time. The women grow their hair until they get married, and then they cut their hair for the first time and the only time in their life. And how they wind the hair up on top tells you whether they're a widow, single, or married. And the men are attracted to women with big legs and a big rear. Muscular. Why? Did you see the terrain they lived in? It's very mountainous. And a skinny-legged girl like you would not make it up that mountain very quickly. And so their women worked. They carried large weights on their shoulders, and they appreciated a woman with muscular legs. So beauty is in the eye of the beholder. It's culturally centric. Very friendly people. The food was wonderful. Yeah, there's the wedding ceremony. They cut their hair one time. I thought I got up there and the clouds were going to kill it for me. I travel, 14,000 miles and it's going to be cloudy. But it started clearing. The dragon god was smiling down. You can see there's 6,000 square miles. Or it's 600, excuse me. That sure sounded big. 600 square miles of these terraces. And you can see the climate, it was very much like Garrett County. It's beautiful. Okay, perfect. We got 5 more minutes. 2016, a friend of mine who I worked with the Power Plant Research Program on a wetland grant retired and went and got bored and joined the Peace Corps. And he's 66, 67 years old. He joined the Peace Corps. And he did his duty for 2 years in Peru. And he had accrued 2 weeks vacation. And he called me and said, "Why don't you guys come to the Amazon?" I said, "Well, I never thought I'd get a chance to do that, but here it is." And I told Ammo, and he told Justin, and they told Bruce. And they said, "We're in." And so we all decided we're going to go to the Amazon, and at least it was a whirlwind tour, but we did get to do some nature. So I want to show you a few of the things I wanted to see. I did not see a jaguar or a river otter, but I do have pictures from someone who we worked with on that trip. Okay, there's the mighty Andes. Upper reaches of the Amazon in Peru before you get to Brazil. Our hometown was, our base was Iquitos, Peru, if that sounds familiar to anyone. But we're in the Amazon, on the Amazon. That's our camp where we stay. You can see all the rubber boots right there. Justin, Amo, Bruce, Hoseas, Niles, Primrose. What a lovely name. Niles Primrose. He invited us down, and we came. Now, we didn't want to spend all our time on the big open river, so the little tributaries is where all the action is. Redtail Catfish. We watched him spearfish, and he kept throwing the spear in murky water. How did you see that fish? And what you see is a little movement of the water on the surface, and that tells you the fish is underneath that movement. And so he let we gringos try it. And it actually is not that difficult. I wouldn't have gone hungry if I was stranded there. So we actually ate that. We ate that. That's a woodfish. And we certainly ate that. That's peacock bass. I caught that one. Look what the grill's made of. Green bamboo, not metal. And it worked just fine. That's Hoseas, native guide. He was fantastic. He knew a lot of the birds, didn't he? And there we are. Waxy monk frog. It's one I hadn't seen. Very cool. Life is amazing. Neotropical planarian, that's a flatworm. Platyhelminthes is the phylum. That should sound familiar to those who took biology with me. What does platyhelminth mean? Flatworm in the Latin. A vine snake in the Amazon. I'll tell you about Justin and finding snakes. We walk out on the beach in Tortuguero, and we look around and we say, we're not catching anything here. And about 10 minutes later, Justin's up there going, hey, hey, look, holding up a big snake. He was very good, is very good. Striped poison dart frog. One of my favorites, the reticulated poison dart frog. Hello. Beautiful, striking colors. And of course, my students know, but those that don't, that's called an aposematism, a warning coloration that they've trained all their common predators, don't eat us because we're toxic and we taste like crap. And they've actually trained all the predators to avoid them. And that's a cheap way to survive. Amazon water snake. The piranhas were voracious. They were so voracious, sometimes fish would jump out of the water and into our boat to get away from them. You could hear the water at night bubbling with those piranha, the red piranha mostly, red belly piranha. I want to say Amazon bullfrog, ammo. We're almost done here, folks. I love this.
Come on, baby. Talk to me. Thank you. Come on, you can do it. Thank you.
Such a cute animal. Bird-eating snake. I did not take this one. Green anaconda. We didn't even have time to even think about looking for them. There's another one hanging in the tree. Now this was near Odorongo. It's just, they're a big fierce animal, and according to Oh, come on. I just read his book, Why Big Fierce Animals Are Rare. It'll, no. Oh, well, that's why I quit teaching. I can't remember anything anymore. What?
That guy.
Yeah. Why big fierce animals are rare. Because by the time the energy goes through all of those layers of the trophic pyramid, there's hardly energy left at the top to support large numbers of organisms. So they're necessarily rare. They're not endangered. They're fine, you know, as far as conservation goes. But they're a big fierce animal. You know, go find me a Bengal tiger. You know, that's not easy. Paul Colombo. There you go. Thank you very much. Why big fierce animals are rare. Oh, this is cool. This spider, or this, I think it's a tarantula. Anybody an arachnoidologist? I think it's a tarantula. Kevin, what do you think?
Sure.
Okay, good. Thank you. I needed that moral support.
Está bien.
He was trained to come for dinner
Estamos listos.
every evening. We would feed him.
Dinner is served.
It's either a big hairy spider or a tarantula, and I don't know what the difference is. This was somewhere between a soccer ball and a softball in size. It's the largest snail I've ever seen in my life. Watson, did I ever show you this picture? The night you guys went and camped up in the backcountry, that day, this was right in the open area at Odorongo. Sometimes called the stink bird or the skunk bird. It's in its own genus. There's no other bird in this genus. And it's the only bird that eats leaves and has multiple stomachs that ferment the leaves like a cow. And you know the musk you get when a reptile like defecates on you? That stinky musky odor, that's what the bird smells like. Oh, the young have fingers with nails on them. And if they fall out into the water or into the river, they can crawl back up to the nest. So they got hooks on their second and third digits, I think. Hoseas took this picture. These are 6 feet long. On YouTube, you can YouTube this. I've seen a family of them kill a 12-foot black caiman. These are top predators not to be messed with. Trail camera, jaguars were in the region. We saw these on one of our trips. The river dolphins, famous pink river dolphins of the Amazon. We just couldn't get close enough to them to do this. Hoseas took this picture also. They're almost blind. They can see better than us with sound. Como las olas del mar. Arriba y abajo, pero siempre adelante. Like the waves of the sea. Up and down, but always forward. You know, humans are like sharks. If you stop moving, you die. And I'll leave you with that pleasant thought. Thank you for staying that extra 15 minutes. I think you probably got something out of it. Thank you.